Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be reminding you of a story that we started to read before we left school. Now we didn't get to finish it, which is a bit of a shame. So we're going to look back at that and I'm going to read you some more chapters from the book and then set you some questions to answer. So the book that we were looking at had two characters in particular. The first one being Mr Twit. And the next one, Mrs Twit. And they were some pretty awful characters. They were dirty, they had really bad hygiene. Mr Twit had lots of different things in his beard, which was disgusting. And one of the things that I'm sure you'll remember is that they played lots of tricks on each other. Some of the tricks, you had the wormy spaghetti. I think that was one of our favourites. You can find a clip of that by BBC on YouTube if you type in the Twits wormy spaghetti, and it replays the scene for you where Mrs Twit terrorises Mr Twit by putting worms on his plate instead of spaghetti, and he ate them and it was gross, absolutely disgusting, but we found it funny. And then we had the Mrs Twit Goes Ballooning Up, where Mr Twit attached lots of balloons to her, and then following on from that, it was Mrs Twit Comes Ballooning Down and Mr Twit Gets a shock because she landed back on him. So today I'm going to read 3 chapters to you. The first chapter is called, 2 chapters. I'm going to read 2 chapters to you. The first one is called Hug Tight Sticky Glue. Wonder what might happen there. And then the chapter we're going to read after that is called 4 Sticky Little Boys. So I'm going to be reading it from my phone. I don't have a copy of the book at home, which is a shame. And obviously there aren't very many pictures in this story, so you just have to use your best listening to make sure that you're really taking in what's happening. Okay. After I have read these chapters, in the description underneath you'll see that there's a list of questions. They'll also be available on the school website. But this will help you to make sure you've got a really good understanding of what you're reading. Okay? Right. Chapter 15, Hug Tight Sticky Glue. And there's a picture of Mr Twit on a tree with a brush in his hand. Once a week on Wednesdays, the Twits had bird pie for supper. Mr Twit caught the birds and Mrs Twit cooked them. Mr Twit was good at catching birds. On the day before Bird Pie Day, he would put the ladder up against the big dead tree, which is a tree they have in their garden that has no leaves on it, and climb into the branches with a bucket of glue and a paintbrush. The glue he used was something called Hug Tight, and it was stickier than any other glue in the world. He would paint it along the tops of all the branches and then go away. As the sun went down, birds would fly in from all around to roost for the night in the big dead tree. They didn't know, poor things, that the branches were all smeared with horrible Hug Tight. The moment they landed on the branch, their feet stuck, and that was that. There's a picture of them on there. The next morning, which was Bird Pie Day, Mr Twit would climb up the ladder again and grab all the wretched birds that were stuck to the tree. It didn't matter what kinds they were. Song thrushes, blackbirds, sparrows, crows, little Jenny wrens, robins, anything. They all went into the pot for Wednesday's bird pie supper. And there is a picture of the bird pie supper. So, after you've listened to that chapter of the story, I want you to have a look at the questions that I've set for you to answer for that part of the story. And you can write them down in your exercise book that you were given or on some paper. Send me a picture in an email so I can have a look and see how you did. And then you can unpause your video to listen to the next chapter. Are you ready? Chapter 16, 4 Sticky Little Boys. On one Tuesday evening, after Mr Twit had been up the ladder and smeared the tree with Hug Tight, 4 little boys crept into the garden to look at the monkeys. They didn't care about the thistles and stinging nettles, not when there were monkeys to look at. After a while they got tired of looking at the monkeys, so they explored further into the garden and found the ladder leaning against the big dead tree. They decided to climb up it just for fun. I think we know that that's not a good idea. There's nothing wrong with that. The next morning, when Mr Twit went out to collect the birds, he found 4 miserable little boys sitting in the tree, stuck as tight as could be by the seats of their pants to the branches. There were no birds because the presence of the boys had scared them away. Mr Twit was furious. "As there are no birds for my pies tonight," he shouted, "then there'll have to be boys instead." He's thinking of putting the children in his pies. My goodness. Here's another picture of him. He started to climb the ladder. "Boy pie might be better than bird pie," he went on, grinning horribly. "More meat and not so many tiny little bones." The boys were terrified. "He's going to boil us," cried one of them. "He'll stew us alive," wailed the other one. "He'll cook us with carrots," cried the third. But the fourth little boy, who had more sense than the others, whispered, "Listen, I've just had an idea. We're only stuck by the seats of our pants. So quick, unbutton your pants and slip out of them and fall to the ground." Mr Twit had reached the top of the ladder and was about to make a grab for the nearest boy when they all suddenly tumbled out of the tree and ran for their homes with their bottoms showing. Oh my goodness, and here is a picture of the children running away from Mr Twit. So now our video is going to stop shortly, so I'm going to set you your next set of questions to answer about that chapter, and you can record those as you did with the first set, and then send me a picture of your work in an email and I will happily have a look at it. I hope you enjoy this task. I'm hoping that maybe during some story times with Max that I'll be able to record a few more chapters, so hopefully you'll be looking out for this YouTube page and having a watch of those as well. Enjoy your job and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.